Welcome to What is Going On for new thought from the edge of Om. Each week on OMTimes flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Om. Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. Tonight's guest is one half of a team that is variously described as the Johnny and June Carter Cash of sacred music and flame carriers of a 5,000-year-old tradition. With record sales in excess of 1.5 million and a fan base that includes the Dalai Lama, Cher, Anthony Robbins and Eckhart Tolle, the artists Deva Premal and Miten are at the forefront of a burgeoning worldwide chant phenomenon. Beloved for their chanting of Indian Sanskrit mantras and Miten's spiritually inspired songs, they travel the world presenting retreats and performing at festivals, concert halls, rock venues and cathedrals in as many as 25 countries a year. Miten joins me tonight from Australia to discuss and play some tracks from his latest album, Temple at Midnight. Miten, welcome.
Hey Sandie, thanks a lot. Nice to hear such nice things said about us.
Well, I've taken some of those lovely things from your own website.
Oh, really? I should read it more often.
You should. Someone's saying nice things about you. So tell me, Temple at Midnight, which debuted at #1 on iTunes, world music charts in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland, Germany, Denmark, and #2 in the USA when it was released in September, is described on your website as a soulful, all-acoustic tale of love and redemption. What was the inspiration for the album and that particular title?
Well, the inspiration for making music for me is to share something that cannot be put into our normal way of expressing ourselves through words. So our music, for me, enwraps us. It cuts through a lot of kind of bullshit, and it goes right through to the soul. And so out of that place, and that's the place that Deva and I actually make the music, and that's where we live and hang out, in this space of a dimension where we hear music and play music from a place of meditation and stillness. And all the music that we make is it's like, I see it like a key to open it, to deepen meditation. It's not about exciting anything. It's more about deepening the space of inner peace. So that was basically my inspiration for doing the album. Temple at Midnight, I've been in many temples and I've played in many places in rock venues that transform into temples when we move together with our audience and we start to chant these magic mantras and these healing sounds from Sanskrit. That's another part of our work, is the mantras and sharing that. As for the songs, I'm 69 years old, I grew up in the 60s and I was influenced by the folk music back then and by the great music that was being played. And my journey through life took me to India and to an ashram, Osho's ashram in India. And I stopped playing music and I wanted to heal from this kind of cross that I was carrying of being a rock musician and playing music for money. I didn't really understand what real music was until I started to meditate, and that's where the music comes from. It comes from that space. So Temple at Midnight is a great title because there's something magical about the midnight hour, as Otis Redding once said. And so the Temple at Midnight, in being with me and Deva and our friends playing together and singing together in this sacred temple, it felt like a good environment to invite people to come into. So that's why I called it that.
You mentioned, your career as a successful rock musician. I mean, you toured in the 70s with bands such as Fleetwood Mac, Lou Reed, Velvet Underground, Randy Newman, Hall & Oates. Yeah. You ran away. You gave all that up after you read a book by Osho. It must have come as a bit of a culture shock being in India as a North London boy. Was that a difficult process for you in the beginning?
Oh, it was magical. It was everything extreme and intense you could imagine. It was that intense. You know, there are many different levels to it. You know, on a physical level, back then, when you first arrived in Bombay Airport, as it was then known, you were transported into a different world. You know, you just were not ready for that kind of culture shock because you saw so many sad things like the kids and the begging and it was everywhere, you know, but they cleaned up the streets now there, but say cleaned up, they put the people somewhere else, but the people themselves were living on the streets knocking, like that song Humaniversal that's on Temple at Midnight, when I sing about the 13-year-old mother with a baby in her arms knocking on your taxi window, you know. So yeah, it's a big shock. And that was not a bad thing for me personally because it shifted me away from, it took away all the old attitudes. It helped anyway to dissolve some of those old Western attitudes that I'd been conditioned to carry all my life. So it was like shedding some of that stuff just simply by being in such a different environment. Plus, India is really Mother India. There is something so beautiful and benevolent about the soil, about being in Mother India, and that was an incredible healing for me too. And then being in the ashram and learning meditation, seeing and hearing the music that was being played, being able to contribute in some way by working in the kitchen. I didn't want to be music. I didn't want to play music. I wanted that attitude that I'd carried in the rock and roll world. I wanted that gone also because it was just another cross, you know. I am a musician. So all that had to go and it just left me bit by bit. And the meditations took me into a new understanding, a new perspective on life, you know. So yeah, it was a big change, yeah. And also, sorry darling, go on.
No, go on, please.
I was just going to say a little too about the teachings and about Osho because it was very radical. It wasn't a traditional ashram that I found myself in. And the only reason I went there was because I read a book. That's how much it affected me. And the actual book was called No Water, No Moon. And it was a book on Zen parables, transcriptions of Osho's discussions and talks on these various Zen parables, and it was just phenomenal. It was so full of intelligence and insight and enlightened expression. I just couldn't believe it. Just resonated with me, you know. And it was at a time in my life when everything was I was in a very delicate and fragile place in my life. I'd left my family and my so-called career as a rock musician was beginning to make no sense at all. You know, I just needed to find something and some sustenance, you know. And I knew about the orange people and stuff like that, but I'd never expected myself to go that direction until I read that, and then it made it easy for me. I just left my family and I left my manager and my record company and the publisher and everything. And the band. I just walked out and I never went back, you know.
You also left behind your name.
Yeah, I left behind my name. I was given a new name too. That was another confirmation in a way to me, because when I got that name, he had no idea of my journey to that point, and he gave me the name Prabhu Miten. Prabhu means God. It's a very sweet way to talk of the divine, you know. It's like my sweet Lord, you know. It's that kind of Prabhu. It was very beautiful. And Miten, which means friend. He didn't know that. I didn't have a friend in the world at that time, and he gave me the name Friend of God. Be a friend to yourself first, you know. And it was a great, great gift.
Great lesson. Be a friend to yourself first.
It
was also Osho who got you playing music again.
Yeah. I needed time to heal, you know. I'd come with all these concepts I didn't want to carry anymore. And the last thing I wanted to do was to be involved in music. Anyway, I was so awestruck by the musicians that were playing, because they were playing free, and they were playing at the same time from such a strong resonance of the heart, with no self-consciousness, no judgment on themselves. So there was overflowing of light energy coming, and strength too. It was Osho's ashram was a huge tantric experiment, so we weren't strangers to sexual energy and that first chakra and the second chakra. We were learning how to move that energy up the staircase, basically up into higher chakras and higher realms. And that was the whole point of those days of not denying sexuality, but actually embracing it. So I was aware of all this, and I just dissolved into the whole Sangha family, spiritual family. And when I felt dissolved, and when I felt that it wasn't a decision intellectually, but I just one day picked up a guitar and started to, say something in a song that was saying thank you to my Guruji. That was all I really wanted to do. I just wanted to say thank you for rescuing me. So that's where the songs began to come from, and then they just continue, and they still come in now. So I don't stop them. I don't chase them anymore like I used to when I was doing it for a living. This is not about money. It's not about ambition or entertaining anybody. That's not what Deva and I are, interested in. So, so that's where the songs came from. I picked up a guitar, started playing again, and found that I could contribute something useful to the ashram through music. Before then, I was just in the kitchen, like chopping carrots all day long and chopping vegetables. That was my savor, and that's what I love to do. But when I realized I could share something with the music, then I was happy to contribute, and that's where I met Deva.
You're listening to What Is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and I'm speaking with internationally renowned musician, singer and songwriter Miten about his life, sacred music, and his latest album, Temple at Midnight. We'll be back in a few moments. Stay tuned.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Welcome back. Miten, you were saying before the break that, of course, Osho's ashram at Pune is where you met your musical partner and love, Deva. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, how long have we got?
Not as long as we probably could talk about it.
Deva really is the love of my life, We met when she was 20-year-old girl. I was already old. I was already 43. And she was in the ashram studying body work. She was studying shiatsu and reflexology and different methods of holistic practitioner work, And she loved the music. I used to play every night in the ashram in the meditation. I was that time responsible for the music in evening meditations where we would all come together wearing white, and Osho would come and sit with us, and we'd be like 2,000 or 3,000 beings all in white, dressed in white robes, and we'd play music for that gathering while Osho was with us. And sometimes he liked really wild music, like samba. We used to play samba music and kind of street music, but he liked to move energy, like the whole place to be really bopping and rocking and open-hearted. So we had some beautiful, energetic, celebrative nights there. So meditations, basically. And so yeah, Deva came into my life. She wasn't really a singer, but when we sat together and I played guitar, she would join in sometimes. And when she sang, I could see that although she was German by nationality, she couldn't pronounce very well the English words. She could speak English quite well, but it took a while for her to move into that other way of hearing music, because where I came from was basically, Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones and Bob Dylan and that whole Americana kind of way of singing and being with music. So took Deva was very shy, but she helped. It helped her to come in on the musical evenings, and I brought her into the ensemble, and she used to sometimes sing with me, or she could play keyboard, piano and stuff. So I just slowly brought her into it. And then we started to play together, and it all just unfolded over the following years. And we met in a place of innocence, really, in the ashram, and that's how we hang out with each other. We've been now we just celebrated our 26th year together, and we're basically 24/7. So as long as I do what she tells me, no trouble, everything is good.
David doesn't feature quite so much on this album as on others. Why is that?
Yeah, well, you have to ask Joby Baker. Joby's our producer, and Joby had a vision for this album, Sandie, and he had a vision that didn't include our normal way of making music and playing music. So one of the things we wanted to do was to use Deva as when I brought in some mantras, that's where she features. But as far as doing like second voice and harmonies and things like backing vocals in the traditional kind of style of rock music or folk music, whatever, I wanted a different sound, and so did Joby, and so we get more of it just didn't fit Deva's voice to have her do that. So anyway, yeah, so Deva was that was the reason Deva didn't appear so much on the album. And also Manoj, our Bansuri Wala, our maestro Bansuri Indian flute maestro from Nepal. He's also very close to Deva and I, and he plays with us all the time. He also only played on one track or one or two songs. So it was more about using my voice, my guitar, and Joby's voice and Joby's beautiful expressions through his different instruments. There was what I like about the album, Sandie, is there's no synthesized sounds. There's no digital pixelated sounds. It's all real instruments, and everything moves air, if you have a bass and you have a big upright bass, it moves air. The guitar moves air. The voice moves air. There's no, like synthesized sounds. So I think that helps the album to breathe,
There is a song on Temple at Midnight called Guruji, which you mentioned earlier, which you describe as an acknowledgement to all of your gurus, the first one being John Lennon. How was John a guru to you?
Oh, God. I mean, those four guys, anyway, what they gave me, it just, and I think about it now, I'm just touched talking about it, because they released so much energy and creativity in my little life back then as a 15-year-old boy, growing up in England. And suddenly the sun came out when the Beatles, and they all had beautiful, interesting personalities, of course, especially John. He was really so funny, and I had moments I can still remember with my friend back then, like coming home from a dance hall, and midnight, and just holding our bellies with laughter, or reading John's poetry books, A Spaniard in the Works, and things like that. And there's one meditation that Osho gave us, which was very iconic. It was huge. It was it was in a duration of 3 weeks, okay? So the first week, and it was 3 hours every morning. So you'd start early in the morning, you'd do the 3-hour meditation, and you do it for 3 weeks. And the first week, you came into the meditation, and those 3 hours were spent trying to laugh and laughing and trying to laugh with a whole load of people. So it became so hysterically ridiculous. You can imagine if you go through a whole week trying to laugh, in the end you just laugh and you're just going, it's very intense and very cleansing. The second week is crying. You do the same thing, but you try and cry. And the third week, you sit in meditation for those 3 hours. And the middle week, when we were in the phase of crying and we were looking for sadness to bring out this sadness and this release of sadness that we keep down inside, it was about it was about cleaning out the inside. And whenever I came to that section of crying, I thought of John Lennon and I thought of him being shot down, and it just brought me floods of tears, So John was a great guru for me. And also because he went to India, he showed us all Maharishi, him and George Harrison especially. So, he was definitely one of my early teachers, and I just wanted to honor him,
Was it your reverence for John that inspired you to cover Norwegian Wood?
Yeah, it was, yeah. I just loved the song. I felt with that song that it's a song that I can sing at my age, You can feel the older man looking back in time to just that moment in time when he was in the 60s and he was in this room with this girl and he was drinking wine, hoping that they maybe get to go to bed together. And, that innocence and that awkwardness, everything is there. And John wrote it, in the moment. It just happened to him but to me, looking back, I suddenly felt, that's my story too. So then I could approach Norwegian Wood with great reverence and hope that he didn't mind that I maybe changed a bit of the vibe of it, because that's how I felt it. I did it with great respect for John. I think it's a beautiful track, that one. I'm very happy with it.
Well, let's hear that track now.
Had a girl, or should I say, she once had me. She showed me a room, isn't it good, Norwegian wood. She asked me to stay and she told me to sit anywhere. So I looked around and I noticed there wasn't a chair. I sat on a rug, biding my time, drinking a wine. We talked until 2, and then she said, it's time for bed. And she told me she worked in the morning and started to laugh. I told her I didn't, crawled up to sleep in the bath. whispered it flown. So I lit the fire, isn't it good, Norwegian wood?
You're listening to What Is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and my guest today is internationally renowned musician, singer and songwriter Miten, who together with his musical and life partner, Deva Premal, is making sacred music and Sanskrit healing mantras mainstream. We'll be back in a few moments after the break.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
My name is Meera Batra, and this is how I live united. Many families have come to America for a better life. I advocate for these families with United Way. United Way empowers them to see opportunities available. We help them get involved with their kids, schools, and network within the community. My name is Meera Batra. I help families see opportunity and succeed. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Miten, in your song The River, which is on your new album, there is a refrain you repeat, I carry you over to the other side. Carrying you over to the other side is what music does. You could say it's also what a guru does. Would you say that you have now become a guru with your music?
You know, it's difficult because, of course, I don't feel at all in any way like a guru. But what I do feel about myself is that I've become an elder in my generational family, you know, like I am an elder now too. I see that all my friends have their kids, and the younger people who come to me and Dave are interested in the mantra, the younger people that are singing mantras, that are carrying the flame that we've been carrying. It's gone to a younger generation also, and that's very important. And so in that way, I feel I have experience to offer, and I was once a teacher in the school, you know, in Osho's school. We had a boarding school in Devon, and the kids would come for 3 monthly terms. I'm so respectful towards these kids because they're growing up in such an intense world, and you know we all are. The intensity is increasing, and it's not. Nobody escapes that. But when you're young and impressionable, and you're moving through those early years, I feel when these guys come and hang out with me now, they've got kids of their own, you know. But still, all this younger generation, especially, I feel like I've got something to share. As for my peers, my fellow ex-hippies and brothers and sisters all around the planet, I feel that we all have something to share. All of us have a life story, and that's the way I see myself, playing for, you know, my family, and it's an extended family that's all over the world, you know, and it's a big family. It's our world of meditation and yoga has become kind of semi-mainstream, you know, because there's so many of us were back then when we were in our 20s and 30s. Now we're in our 50s and 60s, you know. So there's many people who, when they come to see Deva and I in the concerts and come and sing with us, we become like a congregation in our concerts, Sandie. You know, we have the theater or the wherever we're playing all begins to sing together. And what we're singing is mantras, so we're not so much singing, emotionally based songs. We're singing healing sounds from ancient times. So we're singing these healing sounds, and we're all together, and they're energetic, just like in Osho's ashram. Sometimes it's wild, sometimes the music takes us into a deep stillness. And these are the people that I play to, and I don't feel like a guru in as much that I sit up there on the stage and everyone looks at me. I feel symbolically that when Deva and I step onto the stage, we are complete in a circle. Then we can begin making music from that understanding that we are all together and we are all sharing our spaces of meditation and redemption and contemplation and no stress in the moment of being together and singing and being together,
I was struck by some things that I read on your website and in transcripts of other interviews you did. And just to condense and paraphrase that, I think what you said was that your audience is mainly white middle-class people who've wandered through the darker and more foreboding landscapes of modern existence and who grew up with the best music. The Beatles, the Stones, Dylan, Bob Marley, Steve Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Miles Davis, Jimi Hendrix, the hippie generation, and that they come to your concerts to experience a different kind of event. They're not strangers to self-reflection, they're not weird, and they bring their laughter, their tears and their busy lives, and they really like to absorb and digest the music. What that reminded me of was something that the Beatles said about why they gave up live gigs, which was because people weren't there to hear the music. They just wanted to scream throughout it. And as you say, people are coming to you, probably some of those same people, all these years later. And what they want to do is they want to feel the music. They want to absorb and digest it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you know what? They were feeling the music back then. The only way those girls could express it was to scream it out. It was so strong. What was happening when they played and the joy that they emanated, it was a release that they were feeling the music just like they are now. That's what I see. I see a lot of 50, 60-year-olds. I see that we've all been on a journey together. We've all been through that screaming phase. We've all been through getting married, all the relationship stuff. We've been through like trying to figure out what the hell is all this, and we've found something together. Not all of us, but like you say, it's more mainstream now. There's so many of us that respond to. We are flame carriers, really, Deva and I, from those 60 times, and the thing that got Deva and I into a different place, and it didn't happen for everyone, was that George Harrison took us all to India. He took us all to listening to people like Ravi Shankar. It was revolutionary back then, and we found meditation. Not everybody did. There was a lot of drugs, but so you could easily lose your way. But with India, and being in a place where that kind of understanding and that, with the drugs, you felt you went somewhere else, and that place had no reference in our society. We couldn't go to church and say, I think I've just seen God. What happened? What is it? Why is it the trees look alive? And because there was no one in our society that could answer those kind of questions. But if you go to India and hear these gurus speaking, that's what they see. That's where they live. They live in this altered space, so they could articulate it for us. And then it became part of our reality too. You see things. So that's the whole thing for me,
I think the other thing that fascinated me was Deva said that the main reason you and she sing is to bathe in the ecstatic silence that comes afterwards. Now that is meditation, so people are meditating when they're listening and at your concerts.
Yeah, absolutely. We come together to, even if you don't know, even if you come to the concert for the first time, it won't take you long to realize, oh, this is not what I thought it was. For one thing, we say to people, hey, you know what? you don't have to clap because there's no one to clap. We're in a circle, so let's see what happens if we don't put that obligatory clapping sound at the end of every piece. What happens? And then what happens in reality is that when that clapping is not there, something else emerges, some stillness, some relaxation, some, that kind of breath, Sandie, where you just go, and as you go on during the whole evening, that breath and that silence, that feeling deepens. So by the end of the evening, we're in a very joyful and open-hearted place, which is meditation.
I want to play another track from the album Love is the Fire. Before we do, tell us a little bit about this one.
Well, Love is the Fire. When I first came to meditation, I saw it as a fire. I saw it as something intense. I was drawn towards it, and metaphorically, it challenged me. It was like, how much do you want this? Do you just want it a little bit, or do you really want it? And to really want it, you have to jump in the fire of life, go right in there, and that's where you get cleaned, and that's where magic happens, when you start to drop the ego and to move into that kind of area. You have to go into danger. You don't get it hanging out in your house. You have to go outside the door. You have to go out into the wind and the rain, and that's what Love is the Fire.
Let's play that track now.
Well, love is the fire. Love is the fire. Love is the fire burning in the night. Your love is the fire in me. Love is the fire, sets my heart alight. Your love is the fire in me. And I'm burning up, yes, I'm burning up. I'm burning in your love. And I'm burning up, I'm burning up. I'm burning in your love. Love is the fire, I can feel it in my bones. Your love is the fire in me. Love is the fire, everybody knows. Your love is the fire in me. I'm burning up, oh, I'm burning up. I'm burning in your love. And I'm burning up, I'm burning up. I'm burning in your love.
That reminds me of something that you said about when you went to the ashram. I mean, many people think about ashrams, communes, gurus as agents of brainwashing. And you said they did wash your brain, but in a completely different way than people think. And I think that kind of strikes a chord with what you were just saying just now about this track, is that you have to jump into the fire and be cleansed.
Yeah, you can't mess around with gurus, they're shamans, if you try and compromise, then you can end up not understanding what's going on and feeling very angry and feeling resentful and hurt and everything else. That happens, of course. But surrender is a very strong word, but surrender, another attitude or another way of understanding the word surrender into a guru is that and it's not, the guru is just life itself. He's a symbol of life. It's not that he's a person. You don't see him as a guy, you know. And he's always constantly reminding you of that fact, that there's something coming through that's beyond the personality. So once you, if you're lucky enough to experience the benefits of that, that's where trust grows. And once you get trust, then you can start surrendering, because I can let go into this because I've seen and I've felt the truth of it, you know. And so that's basically what that whole thing was about, brainwashing. It was for me, it was like I was so ready to be brainwashed, you know. My mind was full of junk, you know. I actually wanted to be brainwashed, you know. It's a funny negative term, but you know, you can also turn it into a positive term. In my case, it's very positive.
Absolutely. You're listening to What Is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and my guest today is internationally renowned musician, singer and songwriter Miten, and we're talking about his new album, Temple at Midnight. We'll be back in a few moments. Don't go away.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at ConsciousGatePR.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
Welcome back. Miten, let's talk about your track, Inescapable Love. What is your concept of this, inescapable love? What is inescapable about love?
Well, there's two things. One thing was there was a discourse that Osho gave many years ago, and it was actually, interesting enough, it was also on a Zen monk. And word came through the ashram that he'd said to one of his inner circle that this was the most important discourse that he'd ever given. And it was on inescapable love. And it just rang a bell for me. It's like when the Beatles sing "Love Is All You Need," that's inescapable. It just means that's all we need. And for me, I've come to see love as something that is way beyond the energetic polarity pull between masculine and female energy, and even mother to son energy, or father to daughter energy, or whatever. All those earthly connections that we have, they come with attachment, and they come with different concepts, but the actual core of it is inescapable. That's all there is. And if I look at the whole world as love, and that everything that happens in this world is for a reason, even the most terrible things, if every soul is here to learn, because we are in a place where everybody has the opportunity to learn about themselves, no matter how terrible their life is, that may be why they're here this time round, you know. And once you start to see reality in that way, then of course it's inescapable. We live in love, you know, and it's indescribable, and it's unimaginable, and it's all those things that I try to list in the song. But basically, I'm just seeing that you can forget about all the God ideas and concepts if you transpose that whole energy of religion into love, that we all actually we are existing as love. And what that means, love is a beneficial energy that is supportive and nourishing, whatever. And I know that we all don't feel that at certain times, but it doesn't mean to say it's not there.
Mm-hmm. You know, I just want to go back to that description of Temple at Midnight on your website, a soulful, all-acoustic tale of love and redemption. Redemption. Did you feel that you found redemption through meditation, through music, or through your love for Deva?
I feel like I've found redemption, yeah. It's not through any of those particular reasons. I think redemption is those reasons, like loving Deva and the music, they're expressions of somebody who's actually found a way to live at peace with himself. And that didn't come easy, you know. That was a tough road for me. I was in a bad way, you know. I'd walked out on my son, you know, I'd walked out on my pride and joy, you know. And those things, when you start, you know, when you come through that kind of pain and you come out the other end of it, there is a sense of redemption. And healing, it's a healing. It all unfolds it's like going into the fire again, you know. It's a cleansing. There's no escape. We can read about it, but we have to experience it, you know. And that's the gift that Osho gave us. He didn't care what society thought about him. He just wanted to give us ways to experience life and help us to move those experiences into higher realms, so we could live a joyful life and a life of compassion and honesty. I mean, that's the sort of way I like to see my life, and Deva's too.
Few can doubt that we live in a very tumultuous time, not the sort of time that, you know, back in the 60s we could ever imagined we would confront. You have a track on this album called Humaniversal, about which you say that you have your doubts as to whether humanity can actually save itself, but that perhaps human kindness is our only hope. Do you think that sacred music and Sanskrit healing mantras can help heal our world?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen it. I have evidence. You have to think that when Deva and I started to sing these songs and these mantras in Europe, this was in 1992, I guess, something around about that time, there were maybe 30 people in a little meditation room, you know. There was nobody knew about it, nobody was coming. And now we're playing to literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people. That's evidence. Those people were not there in 1990. So I see more and more people coming and saying, just like you in a way, saying, "Oh, I've never heard your music." And now it's actually like a ripple, you know. We've watched the ripples go way out. Like I think I told you yesterday, our tours in Eastern Europe, we play in Moscow and St. Petersburg in Russia and Warsaw in Poland and all kinds of different cities. But what I was going to say was that our biggest audiences are in Moscow, where 6,000 people come to be with us and see us and sing with us and sit in meditation with us. And in Rio de Janeiro, how about that? You know, there's another like 5,000 people there in an outdoor concert with us. It's just an incredible to see all these people and the joy that they bring and the energy. So I do see it can help. Whether it can save us, no, I don't have any big expectations on that one. I don't think anything can save us. I think that's pretty obvious, but it can definitely help.
One of my favourite tracks on Temple at Midnight, having now listened to it several times in the last 24 hours, is Exactly As It Is. Tell us about that song.
Yeah, well, okay, that really is my dedication to Deva, because it's a funny thing that I used to write these songs and I would dedicate them to my guru, because they, you know, and this was one of those songs in a way. It was like, you know, what is the mystery? What is love? You know, how could I be in love with an Indian man and who I call a guru, to such an extent that, like it's a love that I just haven't had for anyone else. No other it's not physical. I never touched him. I never was that close to him ever, But still, there was an unexplainable, blissful response to his being. So, the songs, I would write the songs, but it was a mystery to me. And then one day I realized, wait a minute, it's the simplest thing in the world, and that was when I started to relate it to Deva. It's like, and the song goes, it's a natural affair. There's no mystery there. It's exactly as it is, and that's somehow the way I see love now. It's just like, there's no mystery anymore. I'm not meaning it in a sentimental way. I'm talking about a different kind of love and a more expansive expression of love. And so exactly as it is, really is Deva and Osho were mixed up, but basically...
I don't normally talk about myself much when I'm interviewing people, but I feel like I need to say something because I think why that struck me so much. I had a relationship many years ago which ended very nicely and happily because we were going in different directions, and I came to America. And when I heard that he had another girlfriend, I felt a lot of pain, even though I knew that we would always love one another in one way or another. And one day, it just happened that it was almost like I had an instant download when I understood I didn't need to feel any pain. Because love is, and that's all it needs to be. If we allow it to exist, it doesn't have to look the way we want it to. It just needs to be. That was such a revelation to me, and it was such a sweet easing of pain. And I think that's what you're summing up for me, anyway, in this song.
That's great. That's so beautiful, Sandie. Thank you for sharing that. That's the gift of relationships, isn't it? That's how we grow. We always grow in relationships. We're reflected, and that's the great gift. It's not always a pretty sight, but it's a gift for us to see ourselves and to grow beyond our attachments into a space of compassion and forgiveness and love. Yeah, beautiful.
So before we close the show, I'm going to play exactly as it is so our listeners can hear it. I don't know if we'll have time for all of it, but we'll certainly play some of it. We'll do that now.
The flame in my heart, it burns for you, my love, like a river burning red at the close of day. With yours side by side, I have no choice. I simply love you that way. And it's like that. It's like this. It's exactly as it is. It's a natural affair. There's no mystery there. It's exactly as it is. simply love you. And the healing light from the blessed sun still shines for you, our beloved one, shining on this river. It's burning red at the close of day. I've seen that river so still, seen it roaring in flood. You are the river running in my blood, and I rejoice that I have loved you this way. And it's like that, oh, and it's like this. It's exactly as it is. It's a natural affair, there's no mystery there. It's exactly as it is.
Miten, before we bring the show to a close, just tell us briefly what's coming up for you and David next.
Okay. Right now we're in Australia. We're here for 4 months downtime, and we're writing a book. But we have a deadline for the publishers at the end of January. So we have some concerts coming up in Australia. We do a benefit concert for Tibetan schools in Brisbane, and then we play a concert in Sydney. We have a weekend ecstatic chant retreat here. And then we go to Costa Rica in March, where we have 2 programs called the Gayatri Festival and at a beautiful resort called Blue Spirit. It's in Costa Rica on the beach. We have about 100 people all chanting together, an intimate gathering, very beautiful. And then we go on the road, start in Mexico, and then we go through America, up to Canada, and then in July, August, we go to Corfu, Greece, where we have programs. Gayatri Festival there, which is also very, very beautiful. And then a tour of Europe and Russia, and then back to Australia. That's my year. Now I don't have to do it.
Yes. And one last question. You left England as Andy Desmond to get away from the unfulfilled life you were living, the sex, drugs, rock and roll lifestyle. And along the way, you shed that identity and became Miten. Where is Andy Desmond now? Have you reincorporated him back into yourself? Have you forgiven him for what you perceived were his shortcomings?
Yeah, I love him, but I'm not attached to him anymore, you know. He's definitely, without Andy, I wouldn't be here. So I totally honor all my gurus, and he's one of them, because I just had to get out of his conceptual way of seeing life now. And Andy, to me, was a being that when I was 28, 29, I left. So I've been all this time kind of being Miten, and this is also just a label. So Andy is just as much in me now as he ever was. It's just that I don't so much relate to the kind of concepts and ideas about life that he had.
Miten, thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's probably a completely different time zone there and not at all convenient, but I've truly enjoyed the hour that we've spent together.
Thank you very much, Sandie. Me too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Lots of love. Bye.
Temple at Midnight by Miten is available wherever good music is sold. For more information about Miten and Deva Premal's music, retreats and schedule, visit devapremalmiten.com. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. I hope you'll join me next week for another edition of What is Going On. Till then, it's goodbye from me.